And he said, I'm going to tell you, Dr. White, I'm really feeling unappreciated. He wanted to talk about what he did for the family and what he did for the children. But I wanted to talk about what he was doing to him. And so I told him in that moment, and I said something that changed the entire trajectory of what was going on in his life. I said to him, the truth is, what you do to your family may far outweigh what you do for them. Welcome to the Dr. G.L. White Show, where we like to focus on what I refer to as the fatherhood frequency. That's amplifying the voices, the values, and the victories of Black fathers in their family. Now, today I'm going to talk about something that probably cuts a little deep to someone, and that is focusing on what we do to someone that may outweigh what we do for them. Right? And so in this discussion, I'm going to push you a little harder to understand that while we like to highlight all the great things that we do for our children and for our families, but sometimes the things that are going on in our personal lives may have a far more reaching and lasting effect. Let me tell you about a father that once came to me for a session, and this was a gentleman that had a significant drinking problem, but he didn't want to talk about the alcohol. What he wanted to talk about is all the things that he do for his children. He says, Dr. White, I don't get it. All the bills are paid. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do. The children never want for anything. They wore the latest shoes. They got the nicest house. Dr. White, this mess is crazy. And when I get home, something happens. The wife is short with me. I get home, and then sometimes the children don't even speak. Everyone can be laughing and having a good time, but as soon as I walk into the house, then all of a sudden it gets crazy. And he said, I'm going to tell you, Dr. White, I'm really feeling unappreciated. He wanted to talk about what he did for the family and what he did for the children, but I wanted to talk about what he was doing to him. And so I told him in that moment, and I said something that changed the entire trajectory of what was going on in his life. I said to him, the truth is, what you do to your family may far outweigh what you do for them. So let me tell you and begin to walk you through these consequences, these impacts that can be quite damaging to our children and our families. And so let's take a look at it. Here's the truth. Providing a roof over the child's head does not shelter them from the rage and the harm related to the alcohol. Buying them new shoes won't fix the pain that is broken from the promises that you make. So I'm going to push this here in terms of we like to minimize these things and focus on the highlights. Being consistent at work doesn't excuse being emotionally available at home. So these are the big differences that I don't want us to run from. I want to challenge you to focus and tune in on it, because what you do to the family will erase all that you've done for them. And so where you may be feeling unappreciated, you may be creating an entire household family of survivors because of your alcohol. So when I tuned in on focusing on what he did to them and we gave that attention, here's where the tables began to turn. So there's a lasting and harmful danger that comes with some of the things that we do to our children. There was a workshop that I did once where I asked the men, I said, raise your hand. And I told them, I just want you to think for a moment, just for a second, think about a traumatic childhood experience. As soon as you get it, raise your hand. What I was paying attention to was not whether or not they could find the childhood trauma, but how quickly the people in the room began to raise their hand. And I told them in that point that you were able to raise your hand so fast because that trauma was operating in the background. They, well into their adulthood, realize that what has happened to them creates a memory that begins to show up in their relationships, how they manage conflicts, and how they deal with difficult, stressful situations. So the lasting damage and the behavior that it creates is something that we have to begin to focus on. Harm leaves a longer scar than help leaves a memory. Let that sink in. One moment of verbal abuse can undo years of generosity. Alcohol-fueled nights, violent arguments, and silent treatment don't just pass. They plant what I just talked about, the trauma that we move into our adulthoods. Abandonment, even if it's temporary or circumstantial, creates a lifelong experience and began to create questions in our young people like, am I good enough? Or what did I do wrong? Or was there something that I could have done to have gotten daddy to come home or stay home or to be happy? So these impacts, because of what we do to them, whether it's alcohol, whether it's conflict, whether it's rage, these are the things that we all bring into our adulthood. And the worst part is when we minimize the damage, when we say things like, at least I'm not like my father. When we began to see our children and us say, they don't appreciate everything I do for them. They are just too sensitive. These are the stories that we tell ourselves about our children, or we tell ourselves about the people that we love in our life who are coping with your rage, who are coping with your anger, who are coping with the conflicts, who are coping with the difficulty and the discomfort that comes with every time you come into the house. Our children won't talk about it. They will act it out. And so you began to see these issues showing up at the school. Now you want to go up to the school and discipline the children. But again, what we do to them begins to show up in their lives. This is the challenge. This is the piece that we have to hone in on and practice and pay particular attention. That's how their silent pain begins and hinders the healing process within them. So, how to stop the harm? How to start doing better? So how do we move forward? A couple of things I want to talk to you about. How do we not just do for our families, but also stop doing to our families? So I'll break this up into 5 pieces. Number 1, acknowledge your harm. Don't dismiss it, own it. Say, I see how my actions have hurt you. I think one of the greatest characteristics of manhood is when you can acknowledge that what you've done and the impact that it's had on others. Another characteristic of when someone can come to you and they're not uncomfortable about giving you constructive criticism, because 85% of the people in your life love you and care and want the best for you, while 50% of the people in your life probably want the best for them. But in your family, it's without question, they want the best for you. But if it is difficult to tell you about the impact of your behavior, this is why I need you to acknowledge your harm and don't dismiss it and own it and say how your actions have impacted them. Number 2, apologize without excuses. Believe it or not, there's a right way to be wrong and there's a wrong way to be wrong. Now, the right way to be wrong is to say I'm sorry, and that you feel that way is not the same as I'm sorry for what I did to you. So the wrong way to be wrong may show up in I know what I did, but what about you? Or if you all treated me better, I would treat. That's the wrong way to be wrong. But the right way is that when you can apologize and not offer the excuses, a lot of stuff going on at my job and I'm dealing with all no, there's a right way to be wrong. And so that step 2 of apologizing without excuses is critical. Number 3, get help. Brothers, believe it or not, there's some things in your life that's too big or too impactful for you to handle by yourself. There are times in your life where you have to go and get someone to help you, or go to get the treatment, going to get therapy, substance use support, anger management. Healing isn't a weakness. It's what I call a true mark of manhood. When you can recognize it and then you take the necessary steps to do something about it. Now, also be transparent. Tell your children the truth. I'm not working on being a better father. I wasn't always right. And so when we do that, right, that you are trying to do better, it makes a big difference. As a child, my father used to always say, son, do as I say, not as I do. Much of my life, I thought that was the most hypocritical thing that can ever come out of somebody's mouth, to do what I say and not as I do. But then when I became a man and talked to my father, and I told him, I said, Dad, that was just really hypocritical for you all always say that. But then he said to me, he said, son, it's not. And I paused because I had to hear this. He said, son, when I tell you to do as I say, he said, I may not be there, but it's still the best thing for you. I'm trying to get to that point as well. And so in that moment, even for me as a therapist, right, to hear my dad say something that even for me changed the trajectory. So be transparent, acknowledge, get the help that you need to move forward, and recognizing that you're working on it. They need to see that. But the transparency part, right? Telling your children that you're trying to work on it. This is the helpful part for them, that they know that you're working on it. And here's the beautiful part, then they can have a role in it, right? And prioritize emotional safety. Now, this is a very interesting one, because I'm going to tell you, start checking in with your family, not just what do you need, but how do you feel when I'm around, right? This is a barometer check. Remember at the beginning of this conversation, I said there's something that's off when you walk home and the entire mood of the family changes. Well, then it's okay. I'm going to tell you, as you're working on improving you, brothers, I'm going to tell you, do the barometer check. Give your family permission to give you updates, to share their observations with you. This is critical in the process. This is where the healing begins to take place, because oftentimes, if you look into your own childhood, you will see that oftentimes the things that were done to you, you still remember. They show up in everything that you do. Yeah, you do remember some of the things that your parents or your father may have done for you, but you can't remember when he left. You can't remember when the conflicts and he called your mom out your name. You can't remember when you were a child and felt hopeless. These are the things that you can't remember. Yes, you had the best Christmases ever. Yes, you had the best clothes and you outdressed all your friends. But when you got home, that life there that no one saw but what was taking place in the house, what you do to the family changes and impacts everything. You cannot heal what you ignore. Let me say that again, brother. You cannot heal what you know. You cannot what you ignore. You cannot parent through pain. You never focused on the process. Providing is important, but protecting includes protecting your child's peace in their sense of safety. And fathers without self-control is just a title without trust. So yes, keep doing for them, but make sure that you stop doing to them. Because in the end, your legacy won't be the house that you bought or the clothes that you put on the back or the food that you put on the table. That won't be your legacy. It will be the home that you built inside their hearts. So let's stop the cycle. Let's start the healing. So until next time, be present. Be accountable. Be the man your family feels safe with, not just supported by. This is the true mark of fatherhood. This is the true mark of family development. So this has been the Dr. G.O. White Show. Thank you for tuning in. Tell this story, share this story with someone.